Here we go. This Tuesday show 328. Bob Harig at Bob Harig, Harig on Twitter, ESPN.com, and their senior golf writer joins us, Craig, David, and Paul on SicEm365 Radio. Bob, thanks for your time. We appreciate that. Can you yet wrap your hands or your head around what we saw Mickelson accomplish at Kiowa Island?
Hey, thanks for having me. No, I think already I'm sensing that we aren't giving it its due. I mean, obviously it's a big deal that Phil won and that he won his sixth major, and him winning anything is a big deal in golf. But, 50 years old, the oldest major champion ever, after all that had gone on in his career here of late where he'd really struggled, nobody, Tom Watson, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, none of those guys won a major that old, that late. When Jack won the Masters at 46 was like 56 is now, so, I have a hard time not putting it among like the top three of all time. You might put Jack's 86 first. You might have Tiger's Masters win in 19 in there, but I don't know. You can put Phil much below third. It's just an unbelievable accomplishment. His win. He's had his first and last wins are 30 years apart. That's never happened. I mean, it's just the endless number of things that he did is really amazing. And of course, on a really hard golf course where he had no advantage because he didn't know it any better than anybody else that was playing it.
Because of that, how did he hold off everybody? I mean, how did he stay steady? Is it the 50-year-old Phil that wouldn't have done the things that the 35-year-old Phil did? Because, going into Sunday, looking at the leaderboard, I just thought to myself, that's unbelievable that Phil's even here. But, between, Oosthuizen and Koepka or someone is bound to get hot on those par fives and knock him off his perch, and it just didn't happen.
I think that's part of it. There's some good fortune there. The chasing pack didn't exactly go out and fire a low score. Oosthuizen is a very accomplished player. He's finished runner-up in all of the majors. He's won one, known for a great swing. He's won 8 or 9 times in Europe. But he just didn't apply the pressure. Same with Koepka, who, for all that he's done, was pretty mediocre Sunday. He made a double bogey on the second hole. That gave Phil life. Phil had fallen behind immediately out of the gate. Phil looked shaky. Bogey's the first hole with 3-putt. Koepka birdies, and they flip. But on the next hole, when Phil steadied himself, Koepka makes double bogey on a par 5. That is just something. It's hard to overcome that. And I think it gave Phil a boost. He was able to relax. He knew that it wasn't going to be easy for the other guys. And to your point, I don't know that he completely abandoned the 35-year-old Phil. There were some pretty aggressive plays that might have, been risky. But he's certainly more within himself and more patient and cognizant of, when par is a good score. And so I think you add all those things in, and it is a different Phil who sort of surveyed the landscape and plotted his way around a little bit differently than he might have in the past.
What did you think of that Koepka DeChambeau video that's gone viral here over the last 24 hours?
Yeah, boy, somebody somewhere is going to be in trouble, I think, if they ever get to the root of that. I mean, anybody who's been in this knows that every now and then there's something that is not meant to be aired. And obviously that one wasn't. But in any case, there is friction between those two. I actually think that some of it is just kind of silly. I mean, in that case, like how Brooks let that get to him is beyond me. Like Bryson wasn't talking to him. He wasn't interfering with him. He was walking behind him. And from what I understand, Bryson was talking to his caddy and sort of complaining about this bad break or that bad break or what the court, but guys do that, and Brooks overheard it, and as the eye roll said it all. And it distracted him. It's just kind of wild. But yeah, they have a history. They're not buddies. It should make for a fun Ryder Cup, is what I've been saying, when they're going to be on the same team.
Remember when they tried to pair Mickelson and Tiger on the same team? I know that obviously Tiger, we don't know if he'll ever swing a club again, and hopefully he'll be able to live a normal life again. Bob, do you think this is not going to happen? But if in fact there was another Ryder Cup where Mickelson and Tiger were on the same team, are they now to a point where they could be paired together because of how when you get older you mellow and you start to maybe appreciate things a little bit more?
I mean, I think there was talk about it in 2018, actually, when they went to France, and their relationship had mellowed. But I really think from a strategic standpoint, whether or not they get along, I'm not sure it makes sense. At this point in their careers, and this to me was the mistake that was made in Paris with Tiger. You need, and again, now this is hard with these guys because of their fame and sort of their standing in the game, but they need to be the back seat in the partnership. They need a stronger partner who's deemed better. Like Tiger and Patrick Reed wasn't going to work out very well when Reed really, really looks up to Tiger, and would have deferred to him. Tiger that week after winning the Tour Championship, he needed to be able to lean on somebody. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always thought him playing with Justin Thomas would have been a much better pairing, even though Justin Thomas looks up to him too. Thomas is a much stronger player, and Tiger could have, let him know, I'm leaning on you. And so, in fact, they partnered together at the President's Cup and did really well in 2019. Same with Phil. At this point, he needs a horse to carry him. He can't be the horse. So you put the two of them together, and I'm not sure that that's a great scenario at this point in their careers. Now, back in 2004, when they were, the fact that didn't work is more just a testament to, I think, like hard-headedness among both of them, and certainly they were good enough to put their differences aside and get it done. But they didn't. They lost twice, and they were never paired together again.
Bob Herrig, ESPN, golf writer with us on SicEm365 Radio.
Bob, Rory McIlroy went into this thing very much the heavy favorite, and then came out. Didn't have a great week. Dustin Johnson in the two majors this year it's not been good, and either one of them after an unbelievable year last year. What's going on with those two guys?
Great question. I mean, on Dustin, I don't know what to make of it. Guys fall out of form, but it's they have their ups and downs, but it's surprising that he's missed the cut in two majors, and he did take the week off before that he was scheduled to play because he said his knee was bothering him. He did. I kind of saw that as a precaution. I was surprised that it turned that maybe there's more to it. I don't know. In Rory's case, he won at Quail Hollow, and I think that was a bit of an outlier. That was a course that he knows well. It was the third time he won there. He really likes the course. He putted great, which he's an average putter at best on tour. His stats are way below average, actually. But that week, he putted really, really well and made up for some poor driving. Well, he didn't drive it much better at Kiowa, and he didn't get the putter to bail him out. So, he still was a work in progress anyway. It's great that he won. It was great for his confidence. It shows how good he is that he was able to win without his best. But when Rory's at his best, he's driving it well. And he just has not been doing that. He's been working on some swing issues with a new coach. And you can just tell. I mean, he kind of has a two-way miss going. He sometimes misses it to the right, sometimes to the left. Seems like he's just not committed to what he's doing, at least not yet. And so that's held him back.
The ending on the 18th fairway, which became almost an open championship when they engulfed Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka, it did get out of hand. Have you ever seen that on a United States at a PGA event like that in your life?
Well, when Tiger won the Tour Championship in 2018, that happened.
Okay.
But it was a lot less people, and it was more under control. it was a lot of people. Go back and watch that. I mean, that was a really cool scene, but nobody thought that was dangerous. You know, like, it was neat, and Tiger got caught up in there a little bit, and Rory was playing with him actually that day. And so the scene was reminiscent, but this was both players. You couldn't see either of them. There was way more people on that hole than there was at Eastlake in Atlanta. And, you know, at one point it looked like somebody like tried to like jump on Phil's back, or, you know, I don't know that Tiger and Rory ever got touched. They're certainly not in any kind of physical way, whereas both Phil and Koepka did. And so it was that was a bit unnerving, as Phil said. But under the circumstances, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying it's almost, you can understand it. Like, nobody was expecting that. And they clearly, you know, due to the protocols going into this thing, all of these tournaments have less volunteers, less help. But they let in more fans, and it kind of caught up with them a little bit there on that hole.
You know, I'm watching the video. I dialed it up, Bob, and you're right. There were throngs, thousands of people, but it seemed as if security was slightly ahead of that, as they kind of anticipated that. You're right. I forgot about that moment. I don't know why, because I love the win by Tiger, but yeah, there was so much more in control, even though there's a massive humanity as well.
I'm kind of surprised it's never happened in Phoenix. That thing gets kind of wild. So,
yeah, there's too many cactus around. Yeah,
there's a couple of times it's happened with Tiger, like years ago when he won the Western Open, but it was all very contained. It was like the marshals allowed it to happen, and they held them back with ropes. Here, I mean, Phil was like, there was nowhere for him to go. And, you know, people had been drinking. It was pretty wild. It was warm. You know, just a lot of factors. And all it takes is one, frankly. You know, let's be honest. I mean, all it takes is one for something bad to happen. But thankfully, I think everybody came out of it. And it was, you know, I think it's going to go down as a pretty cool scene.
Brooks Koepka has 4 majors. Is it more often than not you win them? You win them in clumps like McIlroy did, Spieth did early, what Koepka did over a certain amount of time. Is that the norm? And I've followed golf for a long, long time, and I know that Nicklaus with his 18 and Tiger with his 15, and it's a different animal. But is that what usually happens, is you win them in clumps and then you might add 1 or 2 along the way?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at some of these careers, yeah, you know, Jack won his majors 24 years apart. You know, Tiger is 22 years apart, you know, from first to last. Even Phil right now is only 16 or 17, and that's a pretty long time. But like Arnold Palmer won all of his between 1958 and 1964. Watson, I believe, was 75 to 83. So like we're not even talking a 10-year period. They were all in that range. Rory's won 4 from 2011 to 2014 and hasn't won one since, and he's only 32. You know, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to win more. Koepka's were bunched together. I actually think Koepka, at this point, you have to dismiss some of this. He's not 100%. And the fact that he was even there with a chance is pretty amazing. I gave him no shot going into that tournament. I just didn't see it. He had played 4 competitive rounds of golf since the end of February. You know, he had knee surgery on March 16th. Most of us would still be milking that for a couple of months, barely getting around. You know, and here he tried to play the Masters. He tried to play the Byron Nelson, missed the cut in both. And here he is with a chance to win. You know, I mean, I think that's pretty remarkable just that he was there. So Brooks needs to get healthy, because I think the way he's wired, he should be able to win some more, certainly have the opportunity.
How much do you think he's disappointed, knowing, as you mentioned, after that first hole, it looked like, okay, this is back to normal, and that maybe Mickelson would make another mistake at some point? How much has it got to eat at him? Because he wasn't expected, as you said, because he hadn't played a lot of competitive rounds, but then had one right there at his fingertips and did not take care of it.
It always has to eat at you when you have a chance and don't get it done. because there's a lot of times you're just not going to have the chance. At the PGA last year in San Francisco, Brooks was only 2 back going into the final round. There was a lot of guys there in contention, and he shot 74, fell way out of it. If you could give him truth serum, you figure he's got to believe he can beat Colin Morikawa down the stretch of a major, as good as Colin is. But still, he didn't get it done. He didn't have it. I think part of it, and at the U.S. Open in 2019, he finished second to Gary Woodland, going for a 3rd straight U.S. Open. It's hard, and so this time though, I think that if there's a disappointment or if there's any second guessing, it's like he's got to be going, man, I wish I was way closer to 100% healthy, because some of the shots that he hit were poor.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just the putting. He bemoaned his putting, but he put himself in some bad spots to make some of those scores. The one on 2 and he had some issues on the back 9 where, he was struggling just to make par, and obviously he shot over par for the round. So he was, he didn't put the heat on Phil that he would have loved to have. If he avoids double bogey on the second hole and just makes a par there, and they're tied after that hole, you wonder how much different things might have been.
Hey, Bob, thanks for your time. I know it was an amazing weekend. I know the Memorial's around the corner, obviously Colonial this week in Fort Worth, and then they head to Torrey Pines and eventually Royal St. George for the Open Championships. Good to see things back to normal, so to speak, on the PGA Tour. Thank you for being a part of the show, and good luck the rest of the tour, covering it the way you do.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Bob Harig.